Welcome to the deep dive. All right, let's jump straight into it.
Okay.
Our mission today is to take one specific source. It's an article from June 6, 2025, and really slice through it. We want to get to the absolute core of what it's telling us about the price movement of a particular digital asset. It's referred to as XRP in this piece.
Right.
So we're here to unpack the analysis, from the observers quoted in the article, try to understand their view of the market right then, and figure out what they thought might happen next.
And the title itself kind of gives away, doesn't it? XRP price closed bearish. But here's the good news.
Exactly. It sets up that tension right from the start, so you know immediately there's more going on than just the price being down.
Yeah, that title really frames it. So the article kicks off by setting the scene, the broader market picture for that day, June 6, 2025. It describes a day where, well, the whole digital asset market had pretty much turned red.
Meaning prices were dropping across the board.
Pretty much, yeah. Most assets seeing declines.
And the source actually offers a potential reason, didn't it? A very high-level one, linking it to, what was it? Ongoing tension between two of the most influential people in the world, Trump and Musk.
It did. It suggested that maybe this external factor could have been contributing to the negative vibe in the market on that specific day.
Interesting. So this external pressure possibly weighing things down, and the asset we're focused on, XRP, it wasn't immune.
No, definitely not. According to the article, it was caught up in that general market dip. The piece highlights one analyst specifically pointing out a bearish closure for XRP that day. So yeah, the starting point is definitely a price drop.
Okay, so the market's red, maybe these big personalities are clashing, XRP closes bearishly. Sounds pretty grim, but like you said, the title promised good news. So where does that come from? The first analyst mentioned crypto WZRD.
Right, exactly. So despite that bearish close, crypto WZRD apparently saw something positive. Their main point, the good news bit, was that XRP was actually performing a lot better than most alts.
Altcoins, right. Everything except Bitcoin.
Correct. So even though XRP was down, its performance relative to a lot of other digital assets was seen as, well, quite strong in comparison.
Ah, okay. So it's not just the price in dollars, but how it stacks up against its peers. That is interesting context, especially in a day when, like you said, everything's red. Did the article say which other alts it was doing better than?
Yeah, it gave specific examples. Let me see. It listed ETH, BNB, DOGE, ADO, SUI, and Link. It said these assets, according to Crypto WZRD anyway, saw more significant drops than XRP did on June 6th. So when you see XRP's daily drop, which was 3%, down $2.13, you have to see it against maybe bigger drops for these other major altcoins. It gives you that perspective, that relative resilience.
Right, resilience in a sea of red. That's the positive spin this analyst took. Okay, so looking ahead then, what did Crypto WZRD think might happen next? What was their expectation?
Well, their forward look was tied up with XRP's relationship with Bitcoin. They specifically mentioned expecting positive price action from the XRP versus Bitcoin trading pair. That's the XRP-BTC pair. Yep. Their thinking was basically if XRP starts gaining value against Bitcoin, that movement will help XRP turn bullish against the dollar too.
So that XRP-BTC ratio, that's a key thing they were watching. Why is that specific pair often seen as important?
Well, Bitcoin is often treated as, the benchmark for the whole market. Altcoins generally follow Bitcoin's lead, but how they perform relative to Bitcoin can be a really strong signal.
A signal of their own strength.
Exactly, their independent strength or weakness. If an altcoin starts climbing against Bitcoin, it kind of suggests it has its own momentum building, or maybe there's specific interest in it. And that can sometimes come before a big move against the dollar. So Crypto WZRD was basically saying, keep an eye on the XRP BTC chart. That might be where the bullish spark comes from.
Got it. So the hope for things turning bullish was pinned on this potential shift in the XRP BTC ratio. Was that actually happening when the article came out on June 6th?
No. According to the article, it hadn't kicked in yet. It actually notes that on that particular day, Bitcoin had weathered the storm a bit better than XRP. Bitcoin was down only 1%, while XRP, as we said, was down 3% to $2.13.
Okay.
So that potential catalyst, the one this analyst was watching for, it hadn't actually shown up yet at the time of writing.
All right, so crypto WZRD's take is started bearish, but holding up better than many peers, and the key thing to watch is the XRP-BTC pair for a potential bullish trigger. Did they mention any, immediate trading plans based on this?
Yeah, they did actually. The article quotes them saying they intended to track the asset's intraday chart to find a quick scalp opportunity from the lower time frame.
Intraday. meaning within the day itself.
And scalp opportunity,
Yeah.
quick short-term trades.
Exactly. Looking for small price swings within the day to try and make quick profits. It shows they were actively watching the really near-term price action, looking for those brief trading chances, even while the overall picture was bearish. Okay, that paints a clear picture of crypto WZRD's approach. Relative strength, watching for catalysts, looking for short-term plays. Now, the article then moves to another analyst, eGreg Crypto. What was their angle?
Right, eGreg Crypto. The article mentions they have a pretty big following, over 84,000 on X. Their focus was a bit different, though maybe complementary. They highlighted a specific time frame as being really crucial for XRP's price.
Which time frame was that?
The upcoming weekend?
The weekend. Why flag just a couple of days like that as crucial? What's special about weekends in these markets?
Well, often in digital asset markets, weekends can bring shifts. Trading volume might change, maybe different types of traders are more active. Sometimes technical levels get tested more decisively, perhaps when the big institutional players are less active. eGreg Crypto specifically linked this weekend time frame to a technical observation on their chart.
Okay, what was the technical point they were making?
They were focused on something they called a retest box. Now, a retest in technical analysis is just when the price goes back to check an important previous level, either support or resistance, to see if it holds.
Right.
eGreg Crypto noted that this retest box on their chart was, and I quote, barely hit. And their comment alongside that was, we need to see what will happen during the weekend.
So the implication is the price action during the weekend would be really telling. It would show whether that level held or broke.
Precisely. It strongly suggests that the weekend was seen as critical. The price would either break through that level decisively or bounce off it, and that outcome would likely dictate the next significant move.
Okay, so while crypto WZRD is watching relative strength and XRP eGreg Crypto is zeroing in on a specific technical price zone being tested and stressing the importance of the next couple of days. Did eGreg Crypto also lay out conditions for a bullish turn, maybe with specific price targets, similar to how crypto WZZRD watched the XRP ratio?
Absolutely. eGreg Crypto gave a very clear step-by-step roadmap of price levels. They said the asset needed to close above these specific levels to signal what they termed a bullish breakout. These were like milestones in their analysis.
Okay, let's walk through those levels because these are concrete things listeners could, in theory, track themselves based on this analysis from the source. What was the first hurdle?
Right, the first step, according to eGreg Crypto's sequence,
Yeah.
the asset needed to close above $2.30. That's step one for a bullish move.
$2.30. Got it. What's next after that?
The next level they point to is $2.35.
Okay. $2.35, then $2.35. And after that, what was the next significant point?
After $2.35, the article mentions $2.36. And this one, $2.36, seemed particularly important in eGreg Crypto's view. They identified it as the specific breakout point from something they called a mega falling wedge.
A mega falling wedge. That sounds significant. Can you quickly explain what a falling wedge usually means on a chart?
Sure. So a falling wedge is a chart pattern. You see price movements kind of squeeze between two downward sloping lines that are getting closer together, converging.
Okay.
It generally suggests that the downward momentum might be running out of steam. So a breakout above the upper line of that wedge is often seen by technical analysts as a bullish signal. It suggests the price might be about to reverse and head upwards.
And calling it mega just implies it's a big one.
Exactly. Likely a pattern formed over a longer period, making the breakout potentially more meaningful. So getting above $2.36 in their analysis meant breaking free from this major downward structure.
That makes sense. Breaking a big pattern like that at $2.36 sounds like a key technical event they were anticipating. What levels came after the mega falling wedge breakout?
After clearing $2.36, eGreg Crypto listed $2.45 as the next target or resistance level to keep an eye on.
And then what was the ultimate level, the big confirmation, the main bullish signal they identified?
According to the article, the most crucial level for eGreg Crypto, the one they actually labeled the go-go signal, was closing north of $2.65.
$2.65, the go-go signal.
Yeah, that seemed to be their key trigger. Getting above $2.65, they believed, would indicate that strong bullish momentum had really grabbed hold, signaling a potential for a much more sustained upward move.
Wow, okay. So you have two analysts looking at the same asset, XRP, on the same bearish day, June 6, 2025, and they're highlighting different, but you said complementary paths forward.
Exactly.
Crypto WZRD sees the relative strength, keeps an eye on XRP for the spark. eGrag Crypto focuses on this technical retest, flags the weekend as urgent, and lays out this really specific ladder of price targets. $2.30, $2.35, $2.36, breaking the wedge, $2.45, and finally that $2.65 go-go signal.
That's it. And when you put their views together like the article does, you get a much fuller sense of the technical thinking going on around XRP on that day. Both analysts acknowledge the tough starting point, that bearish close. But both also provide specific technical signals they were watching for that could indicate a shift towards bullishness.
And it's valuable that their frameworks are different, isn't it? One gives you that sense of how XRP is doing against Bitcoin and other alts, sort of a market comparison. The other gives you these super specific price levels on the XRP USD chart itself and highlights this crucial short-term window with the weekend.
Precisely. It really shows you how different technical analysts can approach the same situation. One is looking at correlations and relative strength. The other is drilling down into chart patterns and key price levels. Both are, valid technical approaches. And seeing them side by side here gives you a more rounded view of what traders were likely considering.
Yeah, it's a good reminder.
Yeah.
And it's worth just stating, again, as the source article itself did, that this is analysis from specific individuals quoted in the piece. The article's dated June 6, 2025, written by Jordan Leonchev. The article notes he got into crypto trading back in 2016 and started writing about it in 2017.
And crucially, the source includes that standard disclaimer. It makes it very clear. The information comes from the views of the analysts quoted. It's not investment advice.
Absolute critical point.
It strongly advises readers, you, to do your own research before making any decisions and to use any information provided entirely at your own risk.
Yes, and that's exactly what we're doing here in this deep dive. We're presenting and explaining the analysis we found in this one article as clearly as we can, just to help you understand what these particular analysts were saying back on June 6, 2025. We are definitely not offering any financial advice.
None at all. We're just exploring the source.
We're just your guides through this specific piece of information.
And understanding these specific points is valuable even if you don't trade this asset. It gives you insight into the actual metrics like that XRP BTC ratio and the precise price levels, the $2.36, $2.56.
Yeah.
That specific followed analysts were publicly tracking as potential signals.
It shows you the kinds of technical tools market watchers use. Relative strength, comparing asset pairs, specific chart patterns like that mega falling wedge, key support and resistance tests.
And it underscores how important timing can be in these markets, whether it's someone looking at intraday charts for quick scalps or another analyst marking an upcoming weekend as pivotal for a technical test.
Yeah, ultimately, by digging into the detailed analysis presented in a source like this, you get to cut through some of the general market noise, right? You see the specific things that traders and analysts are actually focusing on to build their short-term view. It's like a snapshot of the technical conversation happening at that moment.
It helps you understand the why someone might expect a certain price move because you see the specific technical conditions they've laid out.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap the core findings from this source then. As of June 6, 2025, broad market down, XRP closed bearish. But the good news was its relative strength against many other major alts.
Right.
One analyst, Crup Aato, WZRD, focused on the XRP BTC pair action as a potential bullish catalyst. The other, eGrag Crypto, pinpointed the upcoming weekend as crucial for a technical retest and laid out that specific price ladder. $2.30, $2.35, the $2.36 mega falling wedge breakout, $2.45, and then the big one, the $2.65 go-go signal for a major bullish move.
Yep. It provides a really detailed technical roadmap of what these analysts were watching for to signal a potential shift from bearish to bullish momentum.
It really does. Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on, building on what we've pulled from the article. Given how precisely these analysts identified technical levels and timeframes, how do you think those other factors, the non-technical ones, like that tension between two of the most influential people mentioned at the start, or just unexpected news hitting the wires, how might those things interact with these very specific technical expectations?
Yeah, how does even really detailed technical analysis fit into that bigger, often messy and unpredictable picture of market volatility and, real-world events?
It's that complex mix, isn't it? The charts versus everything else. Definitely something to keep in mind.